A very warm welcome to you all. My name is Michelle Hart and I am from the National Childhood Network. This seminar is on play and emotional wellbeing. Part of the National Childhood Network's role is to support children's emotional wellbeing, and we do this mostly through the Healthy Ireland Smart Start programme. Part of the Healthy Ireland Smart Start programme includes an emotional wellbeing element, and within that we have included play and emotional wellbeing. Many of you have accessed this training and support through this programme. And here, as I say, we've extended elements of that. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge all the good work that you are already doing in supporting children's overall emotional wellbeing, and I hope that the information provided will provide some reflection and additional supports. Early childhood settings may already be supporting children and families fleeing conflict and war from countries such as Syria and Afghanistan and other areas. Now we will have new children and families from Ukraine seeking sanctuary here in Ireland, and we know that many of these families have suffered stress and trauma which is ongoing. We may see a range of behaviours we have not encountered before from children, and we may also see the outworkings of withdrawal and grief and the sadness of families through bereavement or of those left behind. We may see children in our settings acting out what they have experienced in their lives through their play in lots of different ways. We must be sensitive to their trauma and suffering and remind ourselves that play is a great way to work through feelings and to play out different scenarios of what has happened and what might happen next. Play is truly a wonderful thing, particularly for children. It offers healing and recovery. Through play, children learn the back and forth and the dance of interaction, how to begin to wait a little, to take turns, to make friends, to share toys, to control their emotions and impulses, and during play, children have opportunities to be mindful of others' feelings and to be independent and to solve problems. Play has a huge role in supporting emotional wellbeing. Evidence that we see from research shows that early exploratory play through to complex abstract play help children to feel positive about themselves, to develop their sense of identity and self-regulation and the ability to feel connected to others and the wider world. Play supports children to explore and understand these feelings, emotions and intentions, to develop friendships, solve problems and work out conflicts. And we must remember that play always happens in the context of family, community and their cultural background. Play is observed in every society, but not all children play in the same way. This seminar looks at some examples of play in the Irish context and familiar play which has been observed. The Early Childhood Curricular Framework, ASHTR, says, "Provide me with objects, toys and equipment that reflect my own and others' cultures." The examples of play chosen here for play and emotional wellbeing are only some examples of play that reflects familiar play within homes and early childhood settings seen across Ireland. When settling in time for new children has passed, no matter what country they have come from, please ask families to share their traditions and culture through music, stories and celebrations. Play enables children to interact with others and to learn the important elements of social and emotional well-being. It helps children to develop new worlds and to adapt to new situations, helping children to build emotional well-being through confidence and resilience, and to help them to cope with new challenges and new situations that lie ahead. And the Power of Play in Scotland says that play helps babies, toddlers and young children express their feelings such as being happy, sad or frustrated, and then practice how to manage these. When children are playing, they are emotionally immersed in what they are doing. Children are often expressing and working out different emotional aspects of everyday life. Children show us through their internal states every day, through their play, how they feel. They set this up for us in front of us. They make visible to us in early childhood settings, and we have to remind ourselves to tune into and to see these internal states shown to us by children. We see this acted out through doll play or play with teddies, play with sensory materials, in small world and in role play, in outdoor play, and we see the growing independence from children and their caregivers. So some of the things that we're going to look at include play with dolls, using comforters during play, sensory materials, pretend play, outdoor play, creative play, and also how to create a sanctuary of play to support children when they become overwhelmed. Observing and listening to children's play can really support us in how we tune in and respond. There are these are just some of the play examples we have found that are good avenues in supporting babies and toddlers and young children, but there are many other aspects of play, but we have just chosen a few areas in particular for you to have another think about. So as I say, play with dolls is an area that really comforts the child or a teddy, and we know that when the child comforts the doll, he or she also comforts themselves. Doll play or teddy play helps children to work through really strong emotions. Children play out and replicate feelings. They act out how to respond to these feelings, and children may also act out situations they may have already seen, like separation. They kiss the doll goodbye and they say they're going away. Children are recreating separation from their main caregivers when they do this, and it is important for them to practice these coping skills. When children are feeling anxious about changes, you might notice changes in their behaviour, such as feeding or sleeping, or you might see them holding the teddy for a long period of time, or they may keep the teddy with them throughout, or their comfort object throughout the day. When children are feeling anxious about changes, you may notice differences in their behaviour. They might be harder to soothe and settle, and we might need to respond to them in times of anxiety by being much more responsive to the child and being that reassuring presence. Most children, I suppose, are confident in a new situation when they are encouraged to bring comfort or transitional objects, and particularly for perhaps for newcomer families and people who are fleeing war. Sometimes that's not actually a teddy, but it could be a piece of clothing belonging to the parent that they find comforting in terms of smell and having that reassuring presence of their parent actually still being there. A comfort object is anything for which for the child symbolises home life, mum, main carer, and rather than making children feel more insecure and dependent, which that can be, that is sometimes said, these treasured objects often support children to explore and learn in new environments, and it plays that important part in that growing independence. And what we see here is that children, for very young children, the objects build emotional bridges between the home and the early childhood setting, and they will clutch that familiar object all day, but as time goes by they may need it only when they are sleepy or distressed. And particularly for toddlers, we think that they're really beginning to understand the importance of these comfort objects, and it's nearly as if to the child that these objects have feelings themselves, and they use it as part of their emotional support system. They use these objects when they go to sleep, when they're tired, anxious, or they need reassurance. The object is used to calm the child, and the child uses this to self-soothe themselves. And we often see children showing empathy to others by bringing their comfort items to other children when they are upset. So other play that supports emotional well-being includes sensory play, and can often really shore up children's emotional well-being. They're materials that are pleasurable to hold, to touch, to taste, to squeeze and work with. And just yesterday or Wednesday, I was actually in a setting that had lovely coriander in their Play-Doh, and it was really beautiful. It created a beautiful smell actually in the setting. Sensory play can reduce anxiety, stress and irritability, and creates joy for those who are playing. And here it also supports children to play alongside each other, and that, particularly for toddlers, is the beginning of being a companion in play. and the beginning of the self starting to emerge. And often we find that toddlers or children that are in difficult situations have very big emotions, particularly when they're transitioning into a new place or a new situation. They may show frustration and anger and impatience. And these materials we have found are often good to support children through these big emotions that they have, and also provide good coping strategies such as distraction and lots of physical and free play. Another area is the outdoor area, and I suppose for us, we know that humans are genetically programmed by evolution to have a natural affinity to the outdoors, and we know that nature has a healing effect. And children's behaviour, we notice, often changes when they go outside. By being outside, children can tune into the nature all around them, taking in the atmosphere through their senses, the smells, the sounds, the feelings, the sights, and overall bodily feeling of being outdoors. We know that emotional well-being and physical activity are very closely linked, and time spent outside helps to relieve stress and anxiety by reducing the hormone cortisol, which creates a lot of stress in children's bodies and gives the brain a little break. You may want to spend more time outside or on physical activities, and by doing very simple things. By listening to the sounds outside, to the leaves blowing in the wind, and to look at the patterns and the light through the trees. The Japanese have a wonderful terminology called, I think it's having a bath in nature, and it's about immersing yourself outdoors. And I think it would be a really good idea for us all to have a bath in nature at times. So that's a great way to support children, and when children are overwhelmed and stressed, it's a great place to help bring that stress level down. Another area that supports children's emotional well-being is role play or pretend play. It has many benefits helping children emotionally. Children engage with their own emotions. They use the play scenarios or characters to act out past emotions and emotions they actually might need in the future. Children use these experiences to reflect on their feelings and life events in a safe way and experiment with different emotions such as worries or fears they may have. And Small World is a great place to learn how others might be feeling, and a great place to learn to share and to take turns. When children really get overwhelmed with their feelings and have lots of outbursts of emotions, they might need a little support. They might stamp their feet, roll on the floor, or hit out or try to bite. And it's important to understand that children might be feeling frustrated or angry. They might be finding new changes difficult, or might need more time going from one activity to another. Creating a little sanctuary or having therapeutic materials are really important at this time. I see you're really cross. Let's take a break or have a little drink of water. Let the children know I am here for you. I can see that this is very hard for you. Your tone of voice can really support this in a gentle, calm way. Look at the child and let them know you are with them in the moment. You could play some soft music or have some headsets so children can listen to music themselves, or have some sensory play, for example, in water in a basin or bowl. I actually had a little area in our own nursery where we had a little place where children knew if they felt overwhelmed that they could go and play with sand or water or small pieces of Play-Doh in a very small area, and they knew it wasn't a place of punishment, but it was a great way to feel if they felt a wee bit overwhelmed, it was a good place to go. And we talked about that before they would actually go over there, and at the very beginning, so that they knew it was never a place that they were being punished to go to or anything. So it was a place that we said, well, that's there to support you. And sometimes I would have modelled and said, well, I need to put little 5 minutes in here as well, so that they would understand that this was a place to support them. There's lots of different things that you can put in there. Some settings have put in teddies with lavender for nice smells. They have fiddle toys, which are very good for children who are very anxious about things. So there's lots of, and of course the Play-Doh is a wonderful thing as well. Drawing and painting and using different art materials can also support children, because that helps us to gain insight into children's thoughts and feelings through their drawings. Playing alongside the child also helps them to feel supported. So if children were overwhelmed and needed to go into that sanctuary space of play, I would have played alongside them for a little while until the emotion just came down a little bit. Until that strong emotion has passed, because sometimes when children are in a space like that, they can't actually articulate how they feel, or they may not have the vocabulary for that, and they may not be able to walk through the conflict resolution steps that we might be used to having. They're not ready for that yet, so they need a little bit of time just to come down. And then we can go back to talking, what has happened after everyone has calmed down. A little tent or a little den is also a nice place with lights, so that children can have 5 minutes just to take themselves down and to be calm. And again, I've often found the educators in there having a little 5-minute break themselves. So, it's about supporting everybody through that space. So give yourself the chance to calm down too. Children might show other behaviours when they're anxious, such as being hard to settle or soothe, or you might notice a listlessness or a non-communication or withdrawal in their body language, and they may have very little range of facial expression. They might be less responsive. In times of feeling overwhelmed, children might also be reflecting what parents are reflecting, so they reflect the stress that their parents have, and this can be very difficult. And I think it's really important to take time to talk to the parent about this and to provide support where needed. When babies or toddlers are anxious or overwhelmed, they might be more clingy to the parent or to the educator. Their play can become very repetitive and they might seem quite irritable. Having soothing play activities beside an adult who is paying attention to their play really helps. And we have to remember that children are always trying to tell us something through their behaviour. It has meaning, and it is important to tune into what the child is trying to say, and responding to children quickly and being responsive in that moment is an important part of supporting the child in their emotions. And I suppose lastly, you need support yourself as an early years educator. You have an important role to play, and you might also feel anxious, stressed and overwhelmed at times. And it's important to look after your own emotional well-being. The HSE have some wonderful supports around stress control, and they have a number of classes that are running in May and June to support you. And I've also given you a link there to their stress control, relaxation and mindfulness, and that is just taking you through some mindfulness techniques. The programme that is there looks at what is stress, how to control your body, controlling your thoughts and your actions, how to control panicky feelings that you might have, and getting a good night's sleep. And these are free of charge from the HSE, and they're available to support you. So if you would like more details about the Healthy Ireland Smart Start programme and more about the Emotional Wellbeing programme, please contact the National Childhood Network at www.ncn.ie. Thank you.